Well, there's another strange story out about the Department of Homeland Security. The agency has announced a requirement for armed protective security officer services at various locations throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin to the tune of $19 million. And what's more, DHS says, quote, the project will have a requirement for the contractor to have a top secret facility clearance by the start of performance. Now, in light of all that has come out about DHS stockpiling hollow point ammunition and other sorts of bullets and full auto assault rifles and purchasing checkpoint booths and retrofitting armored vehicles, a lot of people are asking, what is going on now? What is this all about? Is it for a legitimate purpose? And if so, what is that purpose? So we're going to try to get some answers today from Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert. He's also vice chair of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. And it's so wonderful to talk to you, Congressman. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to talk to you, Janet. Thank you, and I appreciate the work you've done on this issue. I tell you, there's just a lot of things that continue to be unanswered by the Department of Homeland Security, and I use that term loosely because, as Coburn has pointed out, Senator Tom Coburn, the department is wasting money right and left. They're disorganized, and they've spent supposedly $90 billion on border security, and the border is not secured at all. Some estimates are around 40% or so. And so with this report about new efforts in Wisconsin and in that area, it makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm just giving all this background to listeners so they can understand that hopefully they should be as skeptical of Homeland Security and the Justice Department as I think you and I are.
Well, I agree with you, and all the things that you've mentioned, we've talked about a lot on the show as well, Ella Bieri and all the rest that you've talked about, all very, very important things. But, we've had a lot of people out there saying they're taking note of the 1.6 billion rounds of, in part, hollow point ammunition, which is to kill people, not for target practice. You've had
most ranges don't let you use hollow points on the range.
Right.
Destructive of the target. So that made no sense. And I have asked folks on Homeland Security if they're, what is the reason for that? And I'm talking about the Committee on Homeland Security in the House. And they seem satisfied. Well, apparently, they just have to get this much ammunition when they're buying for all the different departments. But, Janet, that does not make sense. And I don't have answers on what they're doing regarding the report that you mentioned, but it sure piques my interest, and I want to, we get back in session on Tuesday, and I will be demanding answers because that's outrageous. They can't even protect our borders, and now, if that's something that's going to protect the borders, that's one thing, but some kind of secret security force is the very thing that the United States is never supposed to have. We're just not supposed to be doing that. But until we get enough members of Congress stirred up over the things that I've been preaching about, then we're not likely to get answers. And the way you get their attention is start cutting funding. But with Homeland Security, they're not seeking any more nominees to be confirmed by the Senate. So the Constitution anticipates what Congress will do in order to effectuate proper oversight. We will start cutting funding to things till we get answers.
Well,
people say we're in the House, we don't have that much control. Yeah, we do. Nothing gets funded unless we give them the money. We have to agree to the money being funded or they don't get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And that's exactly what the American people need, because I'll tell you, Congressman, people are really worried. They're adding up all of these stories that have come out. You've had the president himself saying as a candidate, talking about a civilian national security force, and people say, oh, that's just conspiratorial. Well, he said it. And now we have all this ammo buildup and armored vehicles, which were used for the counterinsurgency in Iraq. The question,
If you go back to Obamacare, I mean, obviously it wasn't about just only about health care. I called attention to page, I think it was 13, 12, and 13 of the original two-volume set of on Obamacare, but the provisions in there for the president's own commissioned and non-commissioned officer corps, and I've continued to ask questions. What is this for? It says it's for international health crises, but then it doesn't include the word health when it talks about national emergencies.
Wow.
So you go, and I've asked, what kind of training are they getting? It provides in Obamacare that this commissioned and non-commissioned officer corps will be trained, but I want to know, are they using weapons to train, or are they being taught to use syringes and healthcare items? But we've got no clear answers on that. So you couple that with this kind of news, it is very disturbing.
Well, as far as the money, you make a really good point that the House has the power of the purse there, but it's strange that the president himself has not been questioned more plainly by the media. I guess none of us should be surprised by that, but given the case after case where we've seen DHS doing strange things, I think also of the 2009 report they put out on right-wing extremism, we've seen and we've seen those reports about calling the American Family Association a hate group and things like that, and Army training sessions. And especially Christians are looking at this and saying, gee, I hope my mind isn't going in a direction that's actually seeming that it's going. And people don't want to think that way and seem conspiratorial, but it's odd that they will not answer questions.
Well, but you get back to reporters, I think the reason that they're afraid to ask the tough questions about these kind of things is that they're afraid that all of their colleagues will immediately turn on them and saying, oh, you're another right-wing nut, you see a conspiracy everywhere. I don't see conspiracies everywhere. I just see really stupid moves being made by this administration.